Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Gross.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for that warm welcome. It really means a lot because this is one of the hardest things that I've ever done, but I think it's very, very important. Just in case you were wondering if you heard Rob Pincus right, my name is Dan Gross, and for 6 years I was president of the Brady Campaign to prevent gun violence. And no, I didn't make a wrong turn at the Nats parade and wind up here by accident. And yes, it is one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I am here proudly, and I am here entirely by free will. I'm here because I believe fundamentally in the Second Amendment right to bear arms. And I'm here, as Rob said, because I know that at the end of the day, all of you and I share a common goal. We want to keep our homes, our schools, our families, our loved ones safe. But I'm also here for another reason. I'm here because I've seen how all of you, decent, responsible, law-abiding gun owners, are relentlessly and I believe unfairly demonized. I'm here because I've seen firsthand how an ideological hatred of guns and the people who own them is more important to some people than the actual goal of saving lives. And I'm here because I've seen firsthand how tragic those misplaced priorities are. As someone who, as Rob said, has experienced a gun-related tragedy in my own family, and as someone who has spent my life dedicated, whether you agree with the things I've said or not, my life dedicated to the pure goal of preventing what happened to me from happening to other people, there is nothing that pisses me off more than people who pretend they care about saving lives but really have other agendas. And at the end of the day, the reason why I'm swallowing hard and doing this here today is regardless of which side of the political issue you're on, if you're willing to have an honest conversation about what we can do to prevent the loss of innocent lives in a way that upholds the Second Amendment and respects people who own guns, you and I are going to get along. And if you're not willing to do all those things, you and I are going to have issues. And I can tell you, when I was leading Brady, I had a lot of issues with a lot of people who thought they were on my side. The reality is, when it comes to guns, in many ways, I believe I have much more in common with all of you, a crowd of proud, law-abiding, and responsible gun owners, than I do with a crowd of people who just want to ban guns. Now, I want to keep it real. I'm going to be honest. There are probably still some areas where you and I may disagree. Probably fewer than you'd think, but still, I'm pretty sure, based on the things that I've heard here today, that we don't agree on everything.
That's okay.
Thank you. But make no mistake, that stuff, those few areas where we may disagree, that is not why I'm here. Just the opposite. I'm here because of how incredibly much we fundamentally do agree. The fact is, I didn't come here to build common ground. I came here because I know that there's common ground that already exists, and because I believe that that common ground represents a huge opportunity to do what we all want at the end of the day, which is to keep us all safe. And just as importantly, the common ground I want to talk about here today represents an opportunity to keep us all safe without, now wait for it, without any involvement of the government. Because I've always believed, if you want to talk about preventing tragedies with guns that are legally owned, that should be a conversation you have with the people who own those guns. And that's the conversation that I've come to be a part of here today, to talk about what gun owners can do to reclaim the narrative in this country, as we've heard other speakers talk about, to prove what I already know, that the overwhelming majority of gun owners, the overwhelming majority of you, like the overwhelming majority of human beings, are decent, responsible, law-abiding people who, same as anyone, feel awful when a tragedy happens. And people who just want their families and their loved ones and their communities to be safe. To help demonstrate that the gun owners of our nation recognize that with the fundamental right to own a gun comes a fundamental responsibility to do it safely. And to help prove, as all of you are proving here today, that you're not just willing to talk the talk, but that you're willing to walk the walk. I am so inspired by so many of the people I've met here today, by so many of the things I've heard here today, like about the organization Walk the Walk, like the effort that Josh was talking about earlier around Hold My Guns. That is a real commitment to walking the walk. And as part of my commitment to walking that walk, I regard my being here today as just the beginning. I hope we're going to be seeing a lot more of each other. And in fact, I'm with members of the gun community, including a lot of people that are here today, on a new project called the Center for Gun Rights and Responsibility that you'll be hearing more about in the coming weeks and months. Because in the end, here's what I know. I know that if we can have an honest conversation about guns in this conversation, a conversation where people who own guns and people who don't can come together and acknowledge and accept both the rights and responsibilities that come with gun ownership, we have a massive opportunity to both protect the rights of gun owners and to do what you and I and every decent American wants, and that's to keep ourselves, our loved ones, our communities, and our nation safe. Thank you.